Hey, it is Thursday, November 3rd, 2022. Your Rich County Board of Commissioners now in session. Commissioner Tony Vero joins by Commissioner Banks and Mears, our clerk Stacy Crawl, our county administrator Andrew Keller, Janet Brock and Kayla Dalby from the Child Support Enforcement Agency. And do we have the captain and Tennille online?
Rolling now around the line.
Calling out from the source of the News Journal. So we are here to talk child support's budget. Who wants it?
I'll start it. We sent up our budget. It looks pretty good. We signed our contract early, so that was taken care of. Back in October time, September. We got that taken care of. As in the most recent past, we're not here to ask the commissioners to give us any money out of the general fund. We think that our revenue and expenses are pretty good. Our expenses are going to be just a tad over our revenue, but that's how they usually start out. And then because of the 40 contracts and the different things, we always budget high for those. As you can see in the past 5 or 6 years, we've always come in with our revenue being higher than our expenses. And we expect that to be the same this coming year. So we think we're going to be self-sufficient again this year.
I like to hear that. Your revenues are gonna be down less than $2,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, just right around about 2,000. Yeah,
You're looking, I do see actually a reduction in line staff you're looking at, if I'm following the head count correctly.
well, we're down to the 21, but we'll be up since we'll be replacing. We have 2 starting on Monday, 1 at the end of the month. But yeah, but that would still be a little bit. I think that's still 1 less than
Still
what we,
one less.
yeah, 1 less than what we normally have. But we do expect that by the end of next year, so starting in 2024, we're hearing that we might have someone retiring and stuff. So we'll kind of look at as we get closer to the middle of next year, towards the fall, of seeing where we need to be. But yeah, we will still be down a little bit on our staff, but we want to work out the budget and make sure that everything works well. And
Are you looking? So that's what I'm trying to follow, Janet. So let's start with, you have 5 in on your admin side, correct? Are you looking to fill?
well, there's 5, and then we have that 2, like we have
Well, hold on. I'm
another attorney.
doing it how you do it with your budget. If you can just give me a second.
Okay.
So you're breaking it down on your admin management side. I see 5 for 2023, right? Because Cindy's retired. So that's
Right.
Janet, Kelly,
Yep.
Kayla, Kathy, Kristen, right?
Mhm.
Then on the admin support, you're at 2.
Right.
Correct.
Plan to fill, Dawn?
Not at this time. Kayla and Dia are doing very, very well at it. They're both doubling up and learning, both of them, so that if one would be off, the other one could get, the bills paid and get that stuff completed. So we're not thinking that we're going to look at filling that for at least a year, maybe 2.
And then on the line staff, I do see 20 lines, but 3 have resigned or not budgeted for. So I only see 17. Is that correct? So that would be a reduction, right?
Well, but we have the 3 on the end that are unknown. They're now going to be known at the bottom there.
We just hired him Tuesday.
Yeah.
Right, I have them included. You don't have wages in for Brownwell. You don't have wages in for Ryan Jackson. You don't have wages in for Heather Toman. So that's 17.
Right, so yes. So that should bring us back up to the 24 mark. And I think normally we're between 25 and 26 is where we like to stay. So yeah. So right now, as of today, we're at 21. Starting next week, we'll add 2, and at the end of the month, we'll add another one. So that will bring us to the 24 mark. So this is where we don't want to be under that mark. And the 26 at best we could do, but we want to see make sure everything works out right. I'm always a little hesitant at the beginning of the year with the budget coming in, seeing how things go, so.
Aye.
But we're pretty comfortable with just not replacing and having two fiscal specialists, only because Dia is really picking up. And should we be able to cover some of the stuff that Kayla does on a day-to-day basis if Kayla was on vacation or needed to be out?
And the other thing I noticed, and I know we have wage scales and lump sums aren't always the most desirable, but just because someone's a lump sum doesn't mean they can't get the same amount as what hourly increases would be. I saw that you only have 2.5% lump sums.
Well, on what we had gotten down from an email from you guys, that's what it appeared, that there was going to be a 1% off of the lump sum people as the
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, Andrew, maybe I messed up,
had gotten an email.
but we,
Yeah, you might be talking about this memo.
Yes,
I'm happy
Okay.
with the guidance.
yes,
So yes, we're doing it a little different this year.
okay,
And so there's the 2.5% that represents the cost of living adjustment,
correct.
and the 1% that represents progression through the pay
The
rate.
pay rate, right.
So if you had an employee in the red, for example.
That's true.
The 2.5% lump sum.
okay,
If that-
right, I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Yes, that was my understanding. So that's why that
Got it,
kind of,
sorry.
the one that we did have concern on was the new fiscal specialist, Dia. Only because after the contract and stuff, even with her following that chart, the 3.5 did keep her pretty low under everybody in the agency on raises. That was the only one that we were concerned about, but I left it at the 3.5 because I went by, the memo that we had. I didn't want to go too much. And my other fear with her is, if I'm not mistaken, she will be on the chart, pay range chart. She will be 2 or 3 years into the job and already be at the max, just because of what she came from when she came from line staff up. So that would put her within a year or two of being on the lump sum end of it.
Well, that's a couple assumption. That presumes there aren't any more wage scale moves
Right.
or any other position changes. So
Yeah, but
she's still within range right now,
yes.
but
For what it's worth too, Janet, when every time the commissioners make a cost of living adjustment, like say it's 2.5% for next year,
Okay,
the max will move up 2.5%.
okay, okay, all right, all right, thank you, okay.
no, it's a good budget. It's a mature budget. I don't have anything else on my end unless you guys do.
I just question the big block that's on the personal service schedule. The upper portion.
Hours, yeah.
That has to do with, we did our contract opener effective August 4th for our line staff. So during that time period, administrative staff didn't see any changes. So that's just,
Right, underneath the block is the changes that the line staff had. We didn't get those, so.
our changes won't be till.
Makes sense. Okay. No, that's the only question I had.
Carl, Al,
Yeah, just a couple. Janet, you had talked about this being a balanced budget. When I look at total revenue and total expenses, I see a difference of $36,000. What am I missing there?
No, yeah, you're correct. There is, but normally when we have contracts, 40 contracts with the court and with the sheriff's departments. And so we always budget higher on the expense side on those, just in case. But if you look at the very bottom of it where it comes out, it shows you over the last from 17, 18, 2019 and on, those budgets were always expenses higher than revenue. And then at the end, they come out because of those 40 contracts and that we usually end up spending a lot less and have a carryover then.
I asked the same question when I first started, Carl, and I'm still not completely understand it, but it is tied into the 4D contracts and the way Cindy used to have to budget for them from an accounting perspective, but they never come in as high as the original budget submission. So,
It's due to the way our funding comes down
Right.
from the state and the federal levels. We have to do that.
And your carryover has gained each.
Yes, each year our carryover has gained and we expect that it will do that again. So,
Okay, and the only other thing I had was when I look at salaries, I see a jump of 58,000, which would be a 5.8% increase over 2022 estimates. Can you speak to that, where that increase comes from? Thank you.
Is that for the line staff? Because we did opened the contract early and did a contract for that year, and it was effective that in this year's time period.
We had a wage reopener.
Now, they'll get no raise for 2023, just the administrative staff will.
Right.
So,
Okay, I was just looking at the 998,400 versus 1,056,000. That's what I was looking at.
right, right.
Okay, thank you.
Al?
No, I don't have any. Thank you.
All right, ladies, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, we got some time for our next budget hearing. Let's get through our logistical items. Motion to certify the record of proceedings for November 1st, 2022.
So moved.
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Motion to approve requisitions.
So moved.
Second.
Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Right, motion to approve weekly transfers and appropriations, and thank you to the Common Pleas Court for adding rationale or putting an explanation for the request.
Move.
Second.
Commissioner Barrow.
Yes.
Commissioner Mears.
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Okay, we have a request from juvenile court to purchase a vehicle. If we can remember way back to last year's budget session, they did have a request for $20,000 for a vehicle. We had removed that from the general fund and said when the time came due, we would pay out a Richland reinvestment. That time has come. And so in a request from Rhonda Studer, one of the court's administrators, they are requesting that we approve from our Richland reinvestment a Dodge Journey from Spitzer Motors at a cost of $19,984. May we have that motion out of our Richland reinvestment?
I'll move, but I had some questions on this that I left a voicemail for Brian yesterday. I didn't know if this was in addition to the fleet, how large that fleet is. Are they replacing a vehicle and what are they replacing? But I didn't have an answer to that. But I don't want it to hold up the motion then.
I'll second the motion. We can further discuss.
Sure, I'll get back to you in a very timely.
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Okay, motion to certify the monthly delinquent sewer bills.
So moved.
Second that, boss.
Oh, seems like it's the same one we did last month, so I will.
Deja vu.
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears, Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Hey, motion to authorize advertising for a box culvert on Lucas Perrysville Road. This is just a motion to authorize advertisement for bids.
So moved.
If we go back to that car, what kind of car did you,
Dodge Journey.
not what's here?
Commissioner Barrow,
First one, right here. Yes, by the way. Spitzer, Daryl. I think you may have lost it in the shuffle.
Commissioner,
Oh, I have it on mine.
I got that mine too.
Yeah, we have it on mine. Maybe you didn't have.
I got Equinox here.
My vote is yes.
I know, Commissioner Mears,
Yes.
Banks,
Yes.
There it is.
Okay, well, mine remains.
There may not be.
Didn't it say that right there?
Dodge Journey?
Oh, but I was looking at. Where
and there's three.
it's at 3 and they decided that's the one they want.
Yeah, I sent an email to Rhonda. They wanted us to pick initially, and I said, since we had set aside the money to, they said the Dodge Journey.
Okay.
So where are we now?
You got done voting on authorizing advertising for the engineers.
Okay. All right then, last up, We have a lease for storage at Dayspring. This is a pretty cool thing. This is between the county and the Richland County Marine Corps League. We're offering them some storage in our barn out there at a grand total of $1. Payable 15 days after the lease is executed by the parties. May we have that motion?
So take that motion.
I'll second it.
Storing their and or wagon out there. Even 4 or 5 parades a year.
Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks.
Yes.
Okay, that's it for our logistical items. Does Captain and Tennille have any questions?
Oh, back to the vehicle for juvenile court. What year Dodge Journey is this? I'm assuming it's used.
It is used and it is, hold on a second, a 2017 Dodge Journey GT with navigation and all-wheel drive, and its mileage is 66,312.
And do they say in their request what the car will be used for by the court?
I do not have that in the request, Carl. We'd have to go back in our minutes. They did budget for it and talk about it last year, and we set aside money. So you'd have to get with Mr. Bumpus.
Okay, that's all I had.
Al, anything else?
No, nothing more from me. Thank you.
Okay, done in good time there. We will recess until 10 o'clock when the building department comes in.
You go into that
Okay, 10 o'clock, back in session, budget. We're here with Kara Russell, our director of our building department, who always puts together a very detailed and thorough budget. So take it away, Kara. We did unfortunately receive some bad news. It looks like Huron's gonna go their own way.
Yes,
And we'll discuss the impact of the budget here, but
yeah, so, they decided to go their own route with their stuff. Historically, Huron's about 15% of ours. So it's not a small one, but it's not the bulk of our fees come from Richland County between residential and commercial. A third of our income for our department comes from Richland County. That will leave us with Seneca, Wyandotte, Crawford, and Richland. So now I had sent in my budget before that, but I got that information after going over the stuff on Monday. So I've taken the past 2 days to kind of look stuff over, and I have made the decision to leave the stuff as it is. Losing them isn't, especially short term, isn't going to affect anything on the expenses side, because we still have to close out all of the projects that we have. Anything that comes in from permits between now and the end of the year, because we don't lose them till the end of the year. There are projects, we have to do all the inspections on them, that sort of thing. With the estimated income, I had purposely estimated low anyway. I didn't put any increase in income estimated between this year and next year. And I have looked into, with the inflation and the interest rates going up and that sort of stuff, while they're not expecting as big of an increase in commercial construction next year, there's still the overall consensus between there's all sorts of different Dodge, AIA, Architects Associated, all sorts of different organizations that try to predict the construction forecast for the next year. They're all still predicting a 5 to 10% increase in commercial construction. That's between education, commercial warehousing, offices, all that sort of thing. And that, with the fact that I had already started to do an extensive review of our fees, because it's been 5 years since those have been looked at. It was brought up because of the fire alarm fees, which will probably ironically end up being overall lower, because we'll probably end up adjusting how we do those. But if you look at a lot of the surrounding areas and comparable counties and areas and building departments, we are very low on our fees. Now, I don't want to just increase those, but we do a lot and cover a lot. And we do a lot of value-added meeting with business owners that are looking to purchase a property, that sort of stuff. We offer a lot, and we're not reflecting that in our fee schedule. So I'm not saying that it's going to be like, oh, we need to raise them a ton, but I want to balance the making it accessible for the business owners, especially the small business owners who are looking to open, but also being able to help our department cover the cost associated with our department for all the stuff that we do.
so one of the things I looked at, I'm just looking for some clarification, is I noticed you estimate that our departments, taxpayers departments, 2022 revenue will come in at 750,000. If I look at 2021 actuals of 712,014.07, and we are actually negative 1.28% year to date through September. How are you arriving at the 750 revenue figure?
For the 2022,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't have, we're looking at back a year. So this would have been at this time last year. It was some of the same things. You could kind of see where we were at with the stuff. We have been fairly on track to meet.
Even though we're
That, well, I'm not sure what, October has had because I haven't looked through the October numbers yet, but, if you looked at what we had through October, 19th, we were already at 608,000. So, I was figuring it was going to come close, but that estimate is not what I'm estimating. So this year, this is just showing what we had in the budget estimated. Came and did this process last year. Now, we did last year, after the budget thing, also, I believe it was it was a similar time frame. Ashland County ended up going with Ashland City.
So I think we're gonna come in a little lower. I think we're gonna be under 712 this year. I could be wrong. And we're losing Huron, right? For 2023.
Correct.
And you still think we're gonna be at 750?
I am going with that based on I don't have my, I had already started the process before we even knew about Huron County of going through.
I can interject. If we take $750,000 divided by 12, assuming we get evenly $2,500 a month, got 2 months to add, that'd be $125,000. If you add that to the 608 we've collected so far, that would put us about $783,000. Fine on average.
Yeah, and the months go weird.
Yeah, it's not
We've got one big project that
by the average.
I know, yeah.
And the weather. The weather as it gets colder.
but we have had some pretty decent Decembers.
$4,000.
I mean, it just depends on when the things come in, if they want to get the stuff in. Sometimes they start in November, December to get stuff in so they can have a lot of stuff, almost full approvals before they start in the spring.
We still have the city of Galleon, correct?
Correct, in Crawford County.
Mhm.
And I will be reaching out to Plymouth because we do their residential through Richland County, but the commercial is through Huron. So I'm just going to verify if they would, but they're not, that's not a huge jurisdiction, money wise or anything.
Is it safe to say that the loss of Ashland County in 2019 was a greater blow than we anticipate Huron County?
I would think so, just because we lost Ashland and Ashland County together. Ashland County wasn't the one, it was the city of Ashland.
Oh, City of Ashland. Well,
We lost, the city went and they did theirs and we lost them first and then they took over. That was always their,
yeah, the city was.
County went with the city.
and then the county went with
Oh,
the
yeah.
city. But the bulk of the income from the Ashland area was the city, the county brought in money.
Very well.
Wasn't as much, it wasn't comparable to the city of Ashland.
2019 Ashland County revenue was 32.5 in comparison to the city of Ashland, which was 105. You're good with 750, huh? I mean, there's not a trap door if you're wrong. We just
No.
budget appropriately in this
No.
general fund request.
No, and I understand that, and with what they're saying with the stuff, and I think with the fees adjustment, if we want to be conservative, you could probably knock it down to like a 720, a 725, bring it more in line with what this year's end up being. But I mean, if you want my honest opinion,
Are you saying you're not honest with us other times then?
that's what I'm saying.
No, I'm gonna be honest.
This is
What
straight.
does that mean? You're not honest all the other times you talk to?
I'm always straightforward and I try to cut as much out of my budget that doesn't need it as possible. So
I believe that the last 2 years, about 21 and 22, was at a deficit cut into your. I got that.
correct. Well, 22 isn't finished, but the estimated was. The 21 was, but it was only,
17,000.
I'm gonna change our other fees in our general fund, Stacy,
and then
7042 to 7017. I just think that's 25,000.
but in like all the previous years from 2020 previous, we ran we brought in a lot more than what
Yeah.
we spent.
Do you, I know we got things different, the southern part of the county and probably other part of the counties that's gonna take off here. Probably won't be next year. It'll probably be a year or two after that. And we're prepared to handle that.
Are you
That's,
like
let
in
me phrase the question.
the Belleville area? Do we have this? The staff is what you're asking?
Yeah.
Currently, yes. Yes, I mean, if we have to make staffing cuts and then stuff, that's up, but I don't envision, like I said, if that starts picking up at about the same time Huron County, we're not doing those inspections there anymore, then those people are just gonna be able
We haven't made cuts.
for that.
Already discussed.
Yes,
It spends more time in Richland, which is our county.
Yeah.
And this is one department that we want people to be pleased with, so we're willing to say, okay, and we said
Alright.
we're gonna develop, so.
and honestly, there is a lot of cooperation and outreach and stuff that I would love to do, but we're very busy with just doing all the stuff. And I'm not saying that this is a good thing that we're losing them. But we've got that as we're getting through some of these things that we're getting worked out with, like the software that is getting finished up and stuff. I'm hoping that was going to free up time anyway, so we could do more of the going to economic development meetings and being a partnership with economic development and being a partnership with the builders associations and that sort of thing. I kind of have this, and I didn't have it when I started this job, to be honest. It was more of a focus on the building department, but after kind of thinking about how the department's been in the past few years, especially with COVID, when we did nothing because you couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't go meet with people and stuff like that. I just think it's hurt it's hurt the department in the ways that people don't know us. They don't know that they can just call us and ask us questions, and we're there to help them. We're not there to punish them and that sort of thing. And I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for us there that I've kind of started with. But there's always room for more of that. So.
Well, I'm not happy that we lost Huron, but I'm happy to hear what you're saying in that taking care of the people in Richland County. I hope it's a priority, and I understand you got to take your permits as they come in.
Mhm.
And, but if we can help Richland County, that's great.
Sure.
I don't have anything else, Cliff? No. Al, Carl?
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Hey, nice job, Carol. You will recess and come back at 10:30. Okay, it is 10:30. We're back in session. Joined by our JFS Director, Lori Betson, and our Fiscal Director, Carmen Torrance. They are here to go over the always complex JFS budget. Carmen does a good job with that. Ladies, the floor is yours.
Okay, so, good morning. I have 4 budgets to present to you today. I'll go over the Youth and Family Council budget, 2 workforce, one for the Richland Workforce Program, and the other one as the Fiscal Agent Workforce Program. But the first one I'd like to start with is the Public Assistance Fund, the 240 Fund, which is our largest budget.
What number?
240. 240. Okay, so looking at the revenue. Calendar year 2022, I had projected amount of $18,400. As of the report, October 1st of this year, we're at about 82% of that projected amount. So, and at a 10-month period, we should be at about 80% target with effection. Calendar year 2023, the consideration all of the allocations that I received from the state and came up with my budgeted amount, and I'm budgeting for 2023 $10,099,855. This is an increase of about $139,417. This year, the state gave us enough notice about some special funding that we received that I was able to include it in the budget for this year. And some of that special funding is our APS stimulus money that we have to spend, our American Recovery SNAP money that we just were notified about. We did a plan for fraud and got some money there. And then because of the way we spent our TANF funds back in 2021, we got 2022 performance incentive. So we get to spend that this year. So those help to increase my budgeted amount for revenue.
Carmen, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
The 22 estimate, I showed $10,018,488.
Yes.
Then for 23 estimate, I see $10,099,850.
Yes.
That's a difference of 81.
Yes, it's a difference of 81, but if the new monies that I received come up to about 139,416. And if you take a look, some of the other funds have reduced. So like in the transfer fund, I had estimated 225,000 last year. I'm only estimating $200,000 this year. So I should have said that special funds. Yeah, that's the addition of special funds. So yes.
While we're talking, if in the future, if you would use a little lighter grayscale, I could read that a lot better.
Well, those printed out. The only thing is, Dale, they're in color.
Oh, yeah.
So I printed it out in color.
Sorry, because I was going to say that mine's look like this.
Grayscale.
Okay, so, okay.
They're saying revenue basically is going to be unchanged from last year to this year. So I get
Yes,
0.8%.
yes, yes. And that, I wanted to point out that 10,099,855 actually includes ODJFS allocation amounts of 9,417,736. So that's 93.25% of our budget. So the majority of our money comes from our allocations from ODJFS. So if you're good with the revenue, I'll go on to the expenditures. Know that those can be a little complicated sometimes when I have 3 cost pools that I'm showing you. Cost pools are there because of the way that we allocate our expenditures to the state. We use the RMS system, random moment sample. And in order to use that system, we're required to break out our staff and our expenditures into cost pools. So we have the O1O cost pool, which is the first one that you're looking at. That covers our administrative and fiscal staff. And then it covers majority of all our other in-house expenditures, because those expenditures are attributed to all programs. You can't just attribute it to our income maintenance programs. So that's what makes up our O1O cost pool, or if you look at the top, it's the 48,000 cost pool, okay? Then we have the second cost pool, which is our O2O cost pool, how we refer to it on the OJF. And that includes wages for that staff usually handles SNAP, or what people know as food stamps, and Medicaid, those programs. And those are our biggest programs, and that's where the majority of our staff is. And then the last cost pool is our O3O cost pool. And that cost pool has staff that handle our PRC program. They handle our adult protective services, childcare, transportation. So that's that cost pool.
What is PRC? I'm sorry.
Prevention.
Retention contingency.
Yes.
It's an emergency services program.
Yes.
Thank you.
So in calendar year 2022, I projected overall expenditures of 10,017,408. And as of October of this year, we're about 79% of that budget. I think that part of the reason that we're off our mark a little bit is that during 2022, we lost 16 staff. We have replaced 11 of them, but 6 of them were just replaced in October, and their first pay isn't hitting until November. So we haven't seen any of their expenditures so far.
And that's in the 48,200.
Say that again.
That's in the 48,200 expense.
That one is going to be in the in the O20, 481,000. Because the majority of them, I think we have 5. Yep, 5 on the IM side and just 1 on the social service side. For 2023, I'm projecting $9,665,012. It is a decrease from 2022. It's down about $352,476. And a lot of that is made up with, in 2022, I projected 60 staff, including vacancies. In 2023, we're going with 53 staff, including vacancies. And then
$140,000 less.
Say that again.
$140,000 less in salaries.
Yes, it is. It is. $50,000 less in salaries. And then the other side is the what I projected for our contracts, our contractors, our TANF contracts, our TANF Title 20 and our Title 20 contracts. So I'm projecting a reduction in those contracts of $192,123. And that's basically because the commissioners have approved for us to enter into contracts with. Now, if you look at my balance for the year, I have $434,843 that I have not encumbered. So if we enter into additional contracts, if we see services that we need, if we see that we need additional staff or anything like that, I have money that's unencumbered that I can move up in line item. That's it.
Quite a bit more than last year.
Yes.
In line with 21.
Mm-hmm. Anybody have any other questions for me?
Playing very well.
So the next 2 will be the workforce contracts, not quite as complicated. So we'll start with the 241 one, which And if you take a look at that fund, you won't see any wages and fringes because anything, any staff or staff that do any work on the WIOA for Richland, their costs come out of our public assistance fund. And then on a quarterly basis, I figure out based on RMS again, how much time spent on this fund, and I make a transfer. And
So I hate asking these questions because I should probably know this. So if the public were hearing, like, shouldn't you know this already? But this is very complicated if they were. So we have Fund 241, that's workforce, right? But then we also have WIOA,
Fund 242.
and WIOA is Fund 242. And that's shared with Crawford, right?
Yes.
So let's say, and this, I'm trying to, like, I just always try, all right, let me help get all these funds. And I ask some of these redundant questions. So I'm always trying to understand. So if WIOA approves, let's say, Catalyst, right? Mitch always does his success story,
Yes.
right? So let's say WIOA approves an expenditure for Catalyst. Where does that come out of 241? Does that come out of a share? It's like Youth and Family Council, right? I'm always trying to understand where exactly the dollars come out of.
So this is how the Fund 242 works. It is the fiscal agent fund, and that's where all the money from the state that I draw comes into that fund.
Okay.
So the fiscal agent enters into sub-agreements with the counties, okay? Because the counties actually do the work with the clients. So we enter into sub-agreements, and that's why we have a Richland fund.
But 241 is also workforce.
Yes, but that is only for Richland to provide services. The fiscal agent only provides services for youth because that is the only one that they're allowed to do.
Wait, you're talking about 241.
42, I'm talking.
All right, so now we're in, so 241 is a Richland County only workforce.
Yes, and they provide adult and dislocated worker services.
So,
And they request from the 242 account to be reimbursed for those services and cost. Okay? So the 242 just really acts as a pass-through, except for the 242 is responsible for the cost of the workforce director and any board-related cost.
so ultimately, is the Catalyst monies paid out of 242? or
Because that is the
241? I
youth
guess.
contract. So Catalyst provides youth services. The youth services have to be RFP'd out. Richland did not bid on it.
But what if Catalyst is doing it for an adult?
They
Then-
wouldn't,
Then it would
it's
be,
not part of the contract.
yeah, it's not part of the contract. They can only do youth. But if we got into an adult contract with them, it come out of Richland. Because adult services come out of Richland.
41.
Yes.
So it's paid out of 241.
Yes, it's paid out of 241, but in the end, I know it's complicated. It's complicated when we started this and an auditor came in and set this up. In the end, the costs really come out of 242 because I'm going to take the money from 242 and pay 241.
But that's just a transfer of a large amount of dollars. The actual contracts would be within 241.
That would be with 241. And the actual Catalyst contract is with 242.
42.
Wait. That's like you pay it out of 241.
Oh, youth services Catalyst contract is 242. Only adult and dislocated worker, 241.
241 is going to reflect what, say Johnny Barnes is our employment services counselor. When she sees an individual and sets up an ITA with them, that's an ITA through Richland County to pay for training for that individual. That is going to come out of this 241 fund.
Because that's a youth,
No, because
that's an adult and
dislocated worker.
Yes.
And that's what we're only the administrative entity to provide those adult and dislocated worker services, Richland County.
Richland County.
However, Richland County is also the fiscal agent for the entire workforce, which
Right.
encompasses Crawford County, which is
242.
but there could still be 241 monies, even if it's a joint board approval, right?
Give me that. I'm sorry.
I mean, I can't even think of I'm just saying, let's say the WIOA board approves an expense.
No, it's 242. The WIOA board,
Oh, so any expense out of WIOA board will always come out of 240,
242.
including like the specific invoice or?
If they approved it, it was at their expense, it's 242.
Okay,
Only Richland County can approve their own.
41. Okay, so all we owe expenses, but does Crawford have their own too?
Yes, they do. All I do for them is send them money. Now, they send.
So how do we determine whether Crawford pays the invoice or Richland pays the invoice? This is what I never understood.
Okay, so Crawford pays all of Crawford's invoices, and here's why. They've asked me to be their fiscal agent.
So even though we hold all the money and they give it to you, you send it back to them?
Yes, I send it
Crawford
back to them.
expense?
If I don't never see Crawford's expenditures except when they report to me through the state system.
But you're like.
They get their own.
Fiscal agent for WIOA, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let me get this straight. So I got Carl, you guys following this? It's like stereo instructions, as Amanda Miller says.
Yeah, that's why I never read the instructions. I just put it
Right, that's
together.
why, right,
Just call the grandkid.
right. You're the fiscal agent. Carmen Torrance is the fiscal agent for WIOA.
Yes.
Okay. And Crawford pays us, meaning you, for your services.
No,
No, we're the fiscal agent.
just a
Okay.
fiscal agent. Yep.
So
Mhm.
you're the fiscal agent for WIOA.
Mhm.
And Crawford never sends money to 242 though?
No, I send money from 242 to Crawford. Because I as 242.
Okay, that's right. So
Agreement.
all the monies for WIOA come into 242,
Yes,
but then you ship it to Crawford.
yes,
But the distinction between all the funds is if it's a WIOA expense in Crawford,
Mhm.
Crawford pays it.
Crawford pays
If
it.
it's a WIOA expense in Richland,
Richland.
Richland pays it. And all those monies for our intents and purposes, it would be out of 242.
Yes, I take it.
Okay.
Now, I got another question.
Uh,
Normally, when we see grant, it's in revenues. But in 241, opioid emergency grant is down as an expense.
Mhm.
Why?
Because we have a separate contract. We did receive separate money. And that money comes in under, it gets transferred from 242
Okay,
over to 241, and you end up seeing it in the revenue that's called transfer fund 242. I separated that grant because we end up having to
Contract that.
contract that out, and the state is always wanting to know how we're spending it. Okay, how are we spending it? Are we on budget? Do we have allocations? Like I quarterly, they call and say, where are you? Do you need to deobligate? So I set that up separate so I could follow it easily. Okay.
It's really a transfer, not an expense.
It's an actual, Richland gets an actual bill, Catalyst, because they have the contract. So they actually send me a bill. I verify it and I paid out of 242, and it ends up showing up in the opioid emergency grant as an expenditure. Okay. And it's like the adult and dislocated worker, they end up showing up under the non-contracted services or any ITAs. That's where I pay the schools, I pay the vendors, and then when I record it with the auditor, it shows up under the non-contracted services. That's the line I put it to.
All right, you've referred to an ITA a couple of times. What is that?
An individual training account.
Thank you.
That's just our agreement with the.
When I first started, Cliff, there was a book that they had, but then I'd have to Google all these acronyms. I mean, it's insane.
Yep.
And then you forget them 3 years later. So then you got to go back and look up the same ones you looked up.
I'm sure we've asked Carmen the same questions.
It's okay if you don't do it, I tell people if you don't do it every day, and WIOA, as you can see, we don't get a lot of,
WIOA, it wasn't always WIOA too. That's the other thing. It used to be WIV, right?
used to be WIA,
WIA.
Right, that's right. But now it's WIOA.
JTPA before then,
Correct.
CETA before then. So I only started in
CETA. I remember
8 days.
CETA.
I was back in the
70s,
70s.
Yeah,
60s, late 60s.
CETA, yeah.
Greatest moments. She looked at us like, I ain't saying anything. I'm not coming to my first meeting taking away a lunch. My greatest moment.
Don't ask us what that acronym means.
I was familiar with CETA.
I am not CETA days, I'm JTPA days. That's where I started.
Not my time frame.
So if you take a look at those budgets, you can see that I stayed pretty close with what I'm saying I'm gonna get in revenue and what I'm gonna expend. Now, keep in mind, on the 241, I'm saying I'm gonna pull in 736,595. I only pull that money in if I actually expend it. Because I do what's called a draw. And I base my draws every time on actual expenditures. They don't owe me any money at the end of the month. I don't owe them. And keep in mind, because I know that you've attended the WIP board meetings, we are not spending. So we left a lot of money.
You said WIP.
Yes.
I always just call it WIOA.
Yeah, the Workforce Investment Board, that's why. So we left a lot of money, okay? And that ends up being reflected on these reports because I pulled it and now I'm like all confused and I wrote it down. There it is. We are spending at about 57%, at a 57% level. So, and that's reflective of the money that we're sending back to the state. Now, we don't pull that money down. So when I say send it back, they're not coming into our bank account and taking it. I never requested that money from them. They're just taking it out of our allocation. Okay. So, and then that becomes reflective of what happens on the 242 account, because I'm not asking for a lot of reimbursement from the fiscal agent and neither is Crawford. So I end up having a lot of money on the books. But when I do my budget, I do the budget based on the allocations that the state has given us, because we hope to spend the money. So I put it on there, whether I think we're going to spend it or not. And then if we don't, they just take it out of our allocations. So I do with the two, that's the 240, that's the 240. Oh, here. So for the 242, as you can see, I estimated last year 1,786,934, and I'm estimating this year 1,796,909. We did get some additional allocations that I know about now that I didn't know about before. The RISA money that we've gotten, some it's now the Fresh Start money that we've gotten.
Opioid.
Yes, the opioid, the state has allowed us to carry over some of the opioid money we didn't spend last year into this year. So that's reflected in the revenue. And then I look at what I know we contracted out last year. I know what we have contracted with Catalyst. I know what Crawford County's part of the allocation is. So that's that 419,475. Whether they ask for it or not, it's available to them as it was allocated to them. Okay. So, and then I say what's allocated to Richland was the $734,095. That's what you see on the transfer out. Richland can pull that money if, and Crawford is the same way. Crawford does not request any money from the fiscal agent if they don't spend it, so that we're not writing checks or doing wires back to the state for them to get their money back. So that's happened before, but that's not how we do it now. We only request what we spend. That's what we owe. And again, for the small amount of money, it has the most regulations, policies. It's the worst fun. So then I have, I went away, 243, which is the youth council. That's a separate fund. The only thing that the youth council does is that where it gets intertwined is the WIOA 242 reimburses the youth council for Teresa's time. And that is based on actual hours worked. So every 6 months, she submits an invoice to me. And based on that invoice, I reimburse the youth council for Teresa's time.
And what's her exact title then?
She is the workforce director. So when she's,
that's right.
the workforce hat. So I am projecting their revenue, $2,225,321.80. There's a small increase, and as you take a look, I said general revenue last year was 175,000. This year I'm saying 140. But as you can take a look at the pool funds, that's where we've got the biggest increase because her pool funders have committed additional money. So that's accounts for the increase in her revenue.
Where does that come from?
That comes from her pool funders include, I brought that too, so that if I got asked, I could get them all. So her pool funders include the New Hope, Richland Public Health, Mental Health and Recovery, Richland County Children's Services, Richland County JFS, and Richland County Juvenile Court. Those are her pool funders.
So does Youth and Family Council reimburse you / us for your time?
Yes, it
Because
does.
you're also the fiscal agent for
Yes.
Youth and Family Council.
Yes, so,
And Teresa's also the director, but she's paid out of there for the most part,
yes, she's.
which is this fund, except for the reimbursed time for
Iowa,
WIOA.
yes,
So you guys both have two hats, but your hat is somewhat similar in the sense that you're the JFS fiscal director. You're the Youth and Family Council and Workforce WIOA fiscal agent, though, I guess director.
and WIOA reimburses us through RMS. So I get reimbursed for my time through the RMS process. Where on Teresa's, I actually record my time that I spend working for her, working on this, and then I submit quarterly a bill to her. She has to approve it, comes back to me, and I have to pay it.
Then who pays your WIOA time? Does that come out of the 240?
WIOA comes out because we do
Go in and look at
RMS, and through the RMS, it determines how much time has been spent as a whole on workforce, and then I have to transfer that money from workforce over to the public assistance fund. And you can see that it is on the public assistance fund. It is called transfer in from Fund 241. So I'm saying $200,000 is going to be transferred in for the time that Johnny Barnes spends on it, that I do. The RMS process does that. That's the only way to get reimbursed.
Okay.
Okay.
And 243 is the simplest of funds for me. I'm like, yes, I got the 243.
It's the simplest, but let me tell you, it has the most bills. So it's contracts, bills, she does a lot. So I'm projecting the $225,321.80 in expenditures. And of course, that's because the pool funders gave additional money, and then the pool funders are the ones who say, we want this service, we, send out an RFP to try to get us this service, so we expect to spend that money that they gave us. So that's included in the budget. She has 3 staff, Teresa, Haley, and Nikki. Her wages have gone down, and that is attributed to the fact that,
James left and we hired.
yes, and he was at a much higher pay than Nikki is.
Okay, I don't have any more questions.
No.
No, I'm fine.
Captain Tennille, any questions on all that fun understanding of funds?
Negative, thank you.
Carl's like, it's too complex to write about.
I surrender.
Okay, one more budget to go for today, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarifications and your patience with the question.
We will recess until 11:15.
On it is.
All right, we are back. We are joined by Prosecutor Gary Bishop, Fiscal Director Audrey Daniel. Just so you guys know, we have Captain and Tennille online, which is Al and Carl from the media. So if you want to say anything bad about them, we like that, actually. They may print it though, so that's the counter.
The other one might print it about the other.
That's true. It depends on how they print it, but we're here to discuss the prosecutor's budget. We were just noting this is a very good budget. Gary and Audrey, very thorough, detailed. So take it away, but I'm not going to have many questions, if at all.
I think I would just leave it open to you guys really to see if you have questions about anything that jumped off the pages to you. I would say there's not a lot of changes.
We see we got VOCA funding restored, right?
Same amount.
Keeping the 3 on the VOCA staff. I always look at head counts for a reelected office. Totals 26, which would include the prosecutor and the 3 VOCA, right?
In the salaries, you've got room to add one, right?
You have in the budget to add 1.
Yes, and then there is 1 vacancy.
In addition to that.
Yes, but also listed on there.
So wait, who? Where? Maybe?
Vacancy, next to last in the attorneys,
Yeah, I see vacancy right there and the other one. Right, okay.
just those 2.
Yep. Got it.
Okay.
No, it's a great budget. I don't have any questions. You got?
No problem. No, looks good to me.
Let's make it unanimous.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Got it.
You had the quickest one.
All right, you guys know where to find us.
Carl, Al,
Wait, that's true. The media may have one.
Yeah, Gary, I just wanted to ask, in the past couple of years, staffing has been an issue. It looks like maybe that's something that has settled down in the office right now. Are you comfortable with where staffing is at?
No, not at all. It's just that I've been told to stop asking. It won't do any good. You need more staff, but with the current situation, we don't expect to achieve that. We're trying to be grateful for what we are being given. We've tried to come up with a reasonable budget. You just heard it be approved. So that's a success for us. Continue to try to play catch up against the crime wave that's sweeping through our county, and hopefully there'll be days in the future when we can actually get ahead of the curve.
So a problem they're having in the private sector. My wife's obviously director of HR, and I came from a very thriving business, ArcelorMittal. Like, doesn't matter even if you're paying well, people are struggling to find help. So how is it on?
Well, I agree with that to an extent because what I've learned is that people, this younger generation especially, they want number one, they want flexibility. I've done that. I've implemented some policies to give them more flexibility with home hours and added 1 additional personal day a year and things of that nature. What they also want, however, is respect. And it's hard to achieve that when you're constantly being criticized on all sides of the fence. We take criticism from our judges that we indict too many cases. We take criticism from law enforcement that we don't indict certain of their cases they worked hard on and feel it should be indicted and the proof's not there. And so we get blasted by them. We get blasted by victims of crime whose case won't come together and doesn't have the evidence and they think we should prosecute it anyway. We get insulted on occasion. It's just a lot of lack of respect for the work we do. And then the last thing, major thing that they want is meaningful employment. And by meaningful, what I mean is they want to know they're making a difference. They want to know that they're helping their community and building a better future for everyone and making a difference. Well, that's kind of hard to do when you consider that approximately 67% of our cases are drug related, drug cases, drug trafficking, drug abuse. And the legislature, in their infinite wisdom, has seen fit to take all the teeth out of criminal prosecution and drug cases. I understand there's a pendulum swing toward treatment and rehabilitation, and we're all for that. But there are no teeth left in holding offenders accountable. So when you go in day after day after day after day, and you have to work these drug cases and review them and spend inordinate amounts of time on them, knowing that nothing's going to come of it. They're going to get probation. They're going to violate probation and still not go to prison. And it's just going to be a revolving door. There's no meaning in that for them. And they want meaningful employment. They want to know they're making a difference. Now, the meaningful employment, of course, comes from felonious assault, sexual assault, homicides, the burglaries, where they can feel like they're getting justice for people, feel like they're making a difference in helping people put their lives back together. There's just not enough of that, I guess. Not that we want more of that. Don't take me wrong. But there's a flood of drug cases that we have to process, and there's just no fulfillment to it anymore because the legislature has gone too far, in my opinion. So to address your question and bring it back around, they want flexibility, they want respect, and they want meaningful employment. And then they want to be paid what they're worth. They want to make a living. They don't want to have to come in here every day and give 110% every day and then go home and have to worry about how they're going to fix the furnace or put new tires on the car or pay the bills. You know, they want to know that they're doing something fulfilling with their lives and making their lives better as well. And so the people that have left this year have all universally, and I even had Margaret Scott talk to Commissioner Mears about this out of her own mouth, have explained time and time again their reasons for leaving, and it's because they can go to another county, not one of these local counties that you put in the wage study that we don't really compete with because their population's half our size, but these bigger counties, they can go there and they can make more money. They have a more spaced out workload. They don't have to work quite as hard. And when they do work hard, they can focus and give their individual attention to their cases instead of flying by the seat of their pants. And they get more vacation time. One employee left, and one of the reasons she left, just one of several, was that when she came here to work for me, she had to give up 4 weeks vacation in Summit County and came here to 3 weeks vacation and would have had to work 7.
Why was that? I mean, I'm just curious because that's dictated by the Ohio Revised Code. So that wasn't anything through policies by us.
It is part of county policy. She would have had to work here 7 more years to get up to 4 weeks vacation. And when she went back, she walked right back into.
Was that, Audrey?
I think that Summit.
Yeah.
Has somehow, yeah.
Summit's a charter county, right? We follow the Ohio Revised Code, same thing as other counties do.
I'm explaining to you, regardless of whether you agree with it or not, these are some of the reasons that people are leaving this office because they can get more fulfillment, more meaningful employment, a lot more money in some cases. And why come to Richland County when life is better elsewhere? Is
one thing we were talking about was all the drug cases. And I hear politicians around the country say, why have we got people in prison for marijuana cases? Which we don't. Now,
we don't.
That's what I've heard other politicians say. Number one, we don't. And number two, if they are, it was a case where they couldn't prove that they had some other drug and they took it down to marijuana in jail.
Well, and not only that, but somebody coined the phrase several years ago that we can't arrest our way out of this problem. And that's all fine and good, except people took that to mean that we should stop making arrests altogether. So I'm very annoyed with whoever came up with that statement because all the politicians
Carol and John
started parodying.
That is not true to the public that might be listening.
That into the notion that we don't need to incarcerate drug addicts or drug dealers. All we need to do is send them to treatment. Well, treatment doesn't work if you don't have any accountability.
So Judge Robinson has talked about in here, right? The carrot and the stick. There's got to be some.
Yeah, there's got to be accountability, and the legislature has taken away all the accountability, and it's just made it a less than meaningful business for these assistants of mine. So we're thankful that we've got this budget approved. Work the best we can, as we always have tried to do with the budget we've been given. We appreciate it. But we're to Carl's question.
Caution. Didn't approve it, but probably, I mean, we just,
Okay.
we won't prove it until.
We make no promises.
I apologize for mincing words.
It's all right.
No.
It's all right. Any questions? Anything further? Carl, Al?
Well,
Yeah, Gary, since you mentioned, salaries, have you included any kind of increases in that?
Yes, we have
3%.
3%.
Is that pretty standard with what county departments are looking at this year?
I can't speak for other departments.
It ranges. You've also made some, and I'm not saying this to speak pejoratively, but I'm saying you've done a good job of working to bring them up along the way as well. So Gary and Audrey have worked hard in a transparent manner, which has been very appreciative at getting some salaries up. And I'm not making a statement as to they're all good now or they're not. I'm just saying their office has been transparent in working on that.
Gary, if you had your choice, would you have more staff or would you be able to pay existing staff more money? Which would you prefer?
Good question.
More staff. I agree to some extent with the notion that it's not all about the money. Money won't keep people here if they don't have if they're not happy in their work and happy in their job. We need more staff. We have essentially right now we have 6.5 people doing over 1,400 intakes a year. Compare that to Ashland County, whose population's half ours or less. They have about 250 cases a year and they've got 3 people. So percentage wise, 3 people handling 250 intakes a year versus 6.5 people handling over 1,400. But to more precisely answer your question, we have 6.5, and I say 6.5 because one of the individuals hasn't passed the state bar exam yet, so he can't really go into court and do the kind of work where he becomes a full asset to the criminal division. So we're at 6.5, and to get ahead of the crime wave, we would need 10. I'm realistic enough to know that we're not going to get 10 people this year or next year. That's going to have to come over the long term. We're building a new courtroom, clerk's office and all that. We're going to need the people to run cases through those. Eventually that day will come. Just trying to hold the line until then as best we can. And trying to do everything we can to reduce burnout in the office and not overwork the exceptional talents that we do have there now.
Gary, since you mentioned that you have a lot higher workload, is that due to the size of the county, more aggressive law enforcement, or what?
It's hard to say one specific factor contributes to that. What I can tell you is that crime is on the rise. We had days back in the day when we were actually reducing crime and seeing reductions in major crimes. That's not happening these days. Crime is increasing. It's becoming much more violent. We recently took measures in conjunction with the Mansfield Police Department and the Metrich Enforcement Unit to begin a new initiative to address the gang problem that we're having here in Richland County. And yes, we do have gangs, and they are violent, and they are spreading crime throughout our communities. I think we've begun trying to tell the public, stop having your head in the sand and thinking that we don't have a gang problem, because we do. So to point to one factor, no, I can't say that, although certainly the economy with inflation and the desperation that that's put on people has certainly not helped matters. The opioid epidemic continues to thrive as it does all over the country, really. Law enforcement, we're fortunate here in Richland County to have a good, strong law enforcement community. But at the same time, they're facing the same problems we are with reduced manpower and being overworked and having more cases than they have the staff to handle. They're doing a tremendous job. And we just have to try to get ahead of the curve, and that's going to take, unfortunately, that's just going to take some time. We have, as I understand it, we have more millions of dollars in Richland County than we've ever had in the history of Richland County. And we just have to continue to look at the future and build for the future and not get stuck on the present and not be satisfied with what we've accomplished so far, but to continue to grow and move forward in that respect, because sooner or later we have to catch up. Or it's just going to be bad for everybody who lives in Richland County.
That's all I had.
Wow.
Yeah, that was it.
All right. We will recess, not adjourn, as we come back at 1 o'clock.